So you're working on a song and you've got a drum line written that you think's good, so you're playing it in either using some like drum pads or keys to get a little more human sound, a little more responsiveness, and it's sounding good, but it's missing something. There's a lot of nuance that goes in to a drummer playing a live set in a room. From the mic choice and mic placement, to the way the drums themselves interact with each other, like you hit the kick or the toms and it kind of buzzes the snare a little bit. A lot of that just is either very difficult or even downright impossible to recreate using just samples. But I think one of the things that really sets apart a basic drum beat from a more cohesive, interesting drum groove is ghost notes. So ghost notes, if you don't know, are just the soft, sometimes even like almost imperceptible notes in between like your main hits. So you have your kick on the 1 and your snare on the 2, and a ghost note might come a 16th before or after the main snare hit, just barely there. Getting these into your sample-based drum beats can go a long way to make them feel a little less like robotic and programmed. Now, of course, if you have velocity sensitivity turned on, which you should if you're trying to go for a natural sound anyway, you're getting a little bit of change of volume in your sample based on how hard you hit. You can do it that way. But the problem is that when you hit an actual acoustic snare at different velocities, it doesn't just change volume, it changes sound. Very subtle variations in pitch and attack, the balance between the buzz of the snare and the body, even variation between different drummers, different sticks, of course different snares, even the same snare though tuned different ways. They all change the way it sounds depending on how hard you hit. So how can we recreate that using just one snare sample? Quick aside here, yeah, you could stack different samples at different velocity levels on your sampler and your DAW, but there's two problems with that. One is it just takes a lot of time to set up, find the right sample, put it in there, get it sounding right, and that can kind of take away from the moment if you're just trying to get an idea down. And the other problem is a lot of sample libraries, at least the ones I've used that have sounds that I like, they just don't come with ghost notes and light hits like that. They'll come with different snare sounds, but it's usually the same snare, maybe processed differently through a different compressor or saturation or maybe a different mic, but they don't come with these ghost notes. So how can we recreate that sound with just one sample? Well, I've been using this quick little trick, and of course it's not perfect, but I think it does go a long way in getting that sound a little closer to the real thing. I'm going to show you on the MPC, but this isn't an MPC specific thing. You could do this on any hardware or DAW-based sampler as long as it has two things: an envelope for the sample and the ability to modulate the amount of the envelope based on velocity. So as long as we've got that, we're good to go. Let's jump over and see. Alright, now that I've been babbling on about this, let me show you what I've been doing. I've got one of my favorite kits loaded up. For this, I'm using Super Dead Drums from Jake Reed. I'm going to link that sample pack down in the description if you like them. If you like just kind of that dry, well, it's exactly what it says on the box. It's Super Dead Drums. If you like that kind of dry 70s sort of sound, check them out. They're really good. But here, let me just play a little bit just so you can hear the before. And let's turn on 16 levels, make sure, and you can really hear it on that snare roll. It sounds too clippy. It's just not enough variation in the sound. So the first thing we're going to do is go to Program Edit and then our envelope. If you're using something else, just whatever you do to edit the envelope on a sample, and set this to adjust the start. I don't know why MPC defaults to adjusting the end of the sample, but whatever. We're going to adjust our attack. That's easy if you've been around synths or samplers. Attack is just the time it takes once you initiate the note to get from 0 to the full volume. I found that somewhere between like 20 to 40, at least on the MPC, is what kind of works, but just play around with it. It just depends on what you're trying to do and the sample you're using, what'll sound best. Next thing we need to adjust is the velocity modulation for the amp attack. What that's going to do is, based on how hard you hit the note, it's going to either trigger or not trigger the envelope. So set to 0, this envelope isn't doing anything. We can go back to 16 levels. It still sounds the same no matter attack to. But as we turn this up, depending on how hard we hit the note, the more or less this envelope works. So on a softer hit, the envelope is going to actually trigger, or on a harder hit, the full hit is still just our normal sample, which is what we want. If you turn this all the way up, we get nothing because it's completely clipping the sample. And we still get a full attack on our full hit, but only on a full hit. So if we go back down, like again, 20 to 40-ish, we'll just try it there and see how it sounds. Actually, I think I want a little bit more. If you adjust it to where you can't see this bottom pad, but your lowest velocity it's just barely audible, then that's going to give you the most variation in tone. So if we go back and play just a groove, you can hear immediately how much difference that makes. And on 16 levels, let's do like another roll. Sorry, wrong sample. And it sounds better. But one other quick tip, this is just a bonus tip here. If you set your polyphony for the sample up to even like 3 or 4, on stuff like those rolls, it'll actually sound a lot more natural, because if you hit a snare, it's not just completely muting the last hit. There's still a little ring going on. So if we do that, it still lets a couple of the samples ring out. You can hear that sounds a lot more natural. And even get out of 16 levels. Sounds a lot better, right? You could try this. Something else I like to do is on the hi-hat. You can do the same thing. You could play around with this on other drums, but these are the two main sounds that I use it on: snare and hi-hat. Especially on hi-hat, sometimes I'll just adjust the attack of the hi-hat anyway, because if you're anything like me, I kind of like hi-hat as more just a textural element to the groove than a highlight of it. I want my kick, my snare to cut through toms if I'm using them, but the hi-hat is kind of just there to keep the momentum going. I hope this gave you some ideas. I hope it gave you some techniques you could try in your own music. Use it on other drums, use it on kick and tom, get some ghost notes going there. Also on cymbals, like I said, I like it on hi-hats. Ride is another one that I think is very hard to get a natural sound to with just samples, so you might try it on that and see how that goes. You could even try it on the envelope for like filter and pitch, but I've tried it a little bit and it's a lot more touchy. It kind of reaches out and grabs your ear and makes you stop and be like, something's going on there. It's a little funky. But if you're real subtle with it, you might get good results, or maybe something wild like that is what you're looking for. So try it out and see what it sounds like. If this tip gave you any ideas to try, or maybe you've got some idea of a good way to get some more natural sounding drums, go ahead and let's talk about it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you're doing on your drums to make them sound better. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to keep seeing them, it'd be awesome if you go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel. Leave me some ideas down in the comments if you got any more ideas for tips or tricks that you'd like to see me go over. I'm always looking for ideas for videos, so let's hear them. And I also post a lot of jam videos. I got a lot of new music coming. I have a new album coming out on March 4th. It's called Daydreams. You can pre-save it in the Spotify link down in the bio, or you can actually go and check it out now on Bandcamp. The title song is out now, and you can download it 2 weeks early on Bandcamp. You can also keep up with me on all social media platforms at Rumbella Music. If you want to keep up with me there, that'd be cool. Anyway, that's enough about me, and that's enough for this video. So until next time, stay safe, stay sane, peace.